Hi, APUSH history. I want to put this video together for you this week just to do some details and information for the week, but also then talk through some details and information for your AP exam. Hopefully you all should be getting emails either today or within the next 24 to 48 hours on the AP exam. And so I just want to talk through those details and a little bit about what your AP exam will look like with what we know now, so that we can then start really shifting towards getting all ready and set for your AP exam. So if you haven't gotten that email, I'm sure you'll get it soon, but be on the lookout for emails from College Board on your AP exam. So feel free, if you want to have paper out and kind of write down some things that I say out loud on your AP exam. I've also put them in the lesson plan notes or just typed into the lesson plan for this week, so you have them typed as well to reference. But here we go. Your AP exam will be on May 15th. That's a Friday. It's 1 week later than the original date it was going to be. So it's Friday, May 15th. And for us here in Arizona, it will be at 11 a.m. So again, just to say that clearly, that's Friday, May 15th at 11 a.m. Your AP exam will be a 45-minute online exam in which you will be asked to type a response to a modified DBQ essay. And that's all your AP exam. It's just one modified DBQ in a 45-minute time frame. When we talked last time, I was under the impression it was going to be 2 essays in that time, but they have clarified for APUS history, it is just 1 essay, and that's all you're doing for your AP exam. So 1 essay of modified DBQ. And I feel very lucky with kind of what we had you doing a few weeks ago. It is just going to be a 5-source modified DBQ essay to write. So they're giving you 5 sources instead of 7. In a lot of ways, it's going to reflect what you all did a few weeks ago when you did a Cold War DBQ and when you did a Civil Rights modified DBQ, where I gave you 4 to 5 sources and asked you to write a DBQ style essay on it. Now, with that, a couple things to say through this process. The DBQ question itself will focus on some specific portion of time and kind of thematic focus on, and it could be on anything from periods 3 through 7. Anything from periods 3 through 7. Periods 8 and 9 won't come into play at all. Periods 1 and 2, if your DBQ is an earlier enough area of focus, like a period 3 or period 4 DBQ, then you could draw into period 1 and 2 things for more of like historical context, but that would be it. So your DBQ will be modified 5-source DBQ from something within periods 3 through 7. With that, there's going to be a modified adapted rubric then to match that format, since it's no longer a 7-source one. The rubrics themselves are getting detailed and have been sent out to teachers, but then there's going to be follow-up information. So here's what the whole looking forward looks like for us. We have 1 month until you take your AP exam. In that month then, starting this week, everything that we're doing is in some way going to be intended to help build skills that you will need to excel in for your AP exam. We'll also then next week on start weaving in some review of periods 1 through 7. We'll do light review of periods 1 and 2. They're lighter anyways, but we'll make sure that there's good review of periods 3, 4, 5, 6. How helpful it might be if we do like a couple Zoom meetings just talking through what to do with period 3, what to do with period 4, and workshopping the question or the DBQ style itself. But in the meantime, I'm going to then structure our next few weeks in which we're going to go through periods, finish up then period 8 and go through some period 9 in a condensed style in the next weekish, but in a style that's also then going to help with getting comfortable and familiar with the skills and processes of that modified DBQ. So that's the information for your AP exam. You have 45 minutes to be able to read through those 5 sources, type your DBQ, And then in the once the 45 minutes is up, you'll have 5 minutes given to you to then be able to upload that completed essay. So with that, for this week, as we then start on into period 9, which is 1980 to the present, starts with the election of Ronald Reagan in 1980. What we're walking into then is what we call kind of a rise or an age of conservatism for American politics and government. We went through the kind of era of liberalism in the early to mid 1900s, going from the progressive movement of the onset of the 1900s into the 1920s, into then kind of full government involvement in a lot of areas of society, partly as needed through things like, of course, government response to the Great Depression, as well as then with FDR's New Deal programs, and then with great society legislation from Lyndon B. Johnson through the Civil Rights Movement and working for different ways in which government is providing safety nets and trying to make equality happen within society. So with how expensive a lot of that gets, and with how in some ways ineffective government is able to really fully do all of that, the average American person going into 1980 is looking for ways for government to get less involved in society and do less things. And that's where then Ronald Reagan comes into play with the 1980 election as a conservative candidate who really is driving home and campaigning on government conservatism. So with that, I have provided you with 3 primary sources this week. All 3 of them are speeches given by President Reagan. The first is his inaugural address in 1981 when he begins his first term as president. The second is a speech that is pretty famous and renowned because the kind of like the follow-up after the speech is pretty significant based off of a specific word choice Reagan uses. It's in 1983, and in this speech, Ronald Reagan refers to the Soviet Union and the rising threat of the Soviet Union as an evil empire. And by using that wording of evil, it makes it really difficult for the US and the USSR to try to kind of diplomatically work through an end to the Cold War. So that speech is there just to talk through a bit of get you to think through the whole effective wording, as well as the viewing of the Cold War as not just a clash of nations, but somehow, some way also a clash of morality as well. So that's the second. And then the third speech is closer to the end of Reagan's second term. It's in 1987. And it is the speech Reagan gives, in which he gives the famous phrase of tear down this wall, talking through it's at the breaking down of the Berlin Wall, separating East and West Berlin from each other, creating a bit of a divide between then democratic capitalism and Soviet communism happening in the middle of Germany. Those 3 speeches are there for you to read through, and then your activity for this week to kind of get us into some skills that are going to be essential for you to master in advance of your AP exam. You are going to be sourcing all 3 speeches. Now keep in mind when we say sourcing, what we're asking you to do is hippo each speech. Now it's been months since we've kind of gone through that, the acronym of hippo. So I have a typed detail of each one. But just remember, H, historical context, I, intended audience, P is purpose of the document, why it exists, and then the second P is point of view or perspective of the author, who put the thing together, who spoke the thing. And then O, outside information, what's another thing from that time period that this source kind of connects to or helps inform the source. Remember that when you hippo a source, you are not just saying the intended audience is the American people. You have to say why that is a significant, why that's significant in understanding the document. Knowing the inaugural address is meant for the entire American people helps understand his inaugural address, because that's what it is you're trying to do. So you're going to hippo all 3 speeches, and then once you've hippoed all 3, there is a prompt in which I'd like you to type a 1-paragraph response to. What you're doing is basically saying, these 3 speeches, when you look at them together, how do these 3 speeches demonstrate United States foreign policy in the 1980s? And that's what you're asked to do for this week. When you do your modified DBQ for your AP exam, you're going to have to source some documents. You're going to have to demonstrate that you understand what the documents are saying. And you're going to have to make all of them work together to make some big picture statements. So we've got some practice for that this week with 3 speeches, hippoing all 3 of them, and then using all 3 to demonstrate 1980s United States foreign policy. That's the main aspects of what it is to do this week. Also, don't forget, we have our final 2 discussions on Turnitin.com based off of the reading in your textbook. For those of you that have gone all the way through the reading for this book, according to the reading schedule, congratulations and well done. I'm very proud of the hard work and all the time that you've put in. You have just 2 more portions and discussions to do, and then the textbook is all wrapped up and complete, which is, again, it's an accomplishment. So our last 2 discussions for this week, you'll find them on page 2 of the discussion tab on Turnitin.com. They are led by Malin and Grace. I know Grace's prompt is already up, and so Malin, work to get your prompt up soon. And that's all. Make sure you respond to each prompt as well as then reply to a classmate for full points. But that's what we have for this week. Blessings on your week, you guys. I look forward to getting this process going of getting you all set for that AP exam. I know you guys can handle it, and I know you guys can do a really great job on that thing. I'm excited to get you ready. Look forward to doing some more detailing of it all with you as we move from here. But in the meantime, have a great week.